did you do that? How did you do that?
Welcome back everyone to another ESO build video. Today I am releasing the update for Morrowind for the easy mode sorc build. Now this has been very successful, in fact, especially from the people that have been using it, who have been following my channel. There have been multiple people soloing stuff they thought they could never do in a group. There's been people finishing Maelstrom and all that kind of stuff, including Flawless Conquerors. There's been Dramathra Destroyers, all types of things that have been achieved from this particular setup. Now, the original build hasn't changed too much in terms of the way the damage is applied and your survivability and sustain, although the gear has changed. Now, before, we had some rather difficult to get hold of stuff, although the build itself was relatively easy to use. Most gear sets, combinations, whatever, do generally work with this particular setup, but the most optimal one that I've now put together is actually very, very, very easy to obtain in comparison to how it was before. Excuse me. Before was 5-piece infallible ether, but we dropped the 5th piece, which I'll come to in a second. But basically, infallible ether, the staff was very, very important, and that's obviously very hard to farm because you need 12 people and you need a lot of luck on your side. This, as you can probably see if you know your motifs, is not an ether staff, and you don't need it to be. Now, the original setup was 5 ether, 5 twiceborn, and 1 kenna, or kena, however you want to pronounce it. You can still use that original setup if you have all the pieces, but what I would advise you to do, because there is a bug at the moment which is a little bit messy, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. There is a bug with infallible ether where the 5th piece can sometimes not allow you to reapply off balance and stuff like that while it's active. Not set in stone, I've made it proc with or without the thing running, but just to avoid any extra issues with it, take off the 5th piece and replace it with perhaps one shoulder or helmet of a monster set of your choice, preferably something with Magicka on it, maybe Elambrius or Grothdar or something like that, and you'll be absolutely fine and your damage won't suffer at all. In fact, it will probably be a little bit higher. But here is the new setup. Now, the gear is so easy, like I said, in comparison. You can do it by yourself if you're experienced enough, or failing that, you can do it in a very small group, 4 at most, obviously. And this is what you need to get. Now, I will go over all of the reasons behind all of these pieces and what goes where and all the rest of it, and also where they come from. First of all, I'm actually going to go into the skills, and then that will make sense when I get to the gear. Now, first of all, we have Inner Light. This is a Mage's Guild skill and is used purely for the passive buff that you get for having this on your bar, which is 5% max Magicka, which contributes to your overall damage, especially of your skills. And then you get Major Prophecy, which increases your spell crit rating by 2191, which is roughly 10%. So that's very, very powerful, and you want to keep that on you all the time if you can. You wouldn't need to switch anything out with this particular setup, but other ones I know necessarily don't use it. Beast Trap. This is actually Rearming Trap it's morphed into. It's in the Fighters Guild skill line, which I'll show you also. This isn't for the damage that it does, it's for the damage that you gain from having it active. So while this is down, when that pops, if a target lands on it, if it's a normal mob, it will get stunned or rooted. If it's a boss, nothing will happen to it apart from a small bit of damage, but you will still receive the buff from that. So where's something to hit so I can just briefly show you. No mud crabs. Oh, I'll get a bounty. Never mind. No, I won't. There's something to hit. Well, there should be some mud crabs here soon, so we'll come back to that in a minute. Hardened Ward goes without saying you need some form of protection, and this is it. You put on a shield, lasts 6 seconds, unless it is removed by that amount of damage being taken by you. So, for this example, once it's active, it's stronger. A 20k shield. So 20.4k worth of damage incoming. Once you receive that amount of damage, it disappears. Or, if the 6 seconds runs out, as you can see, it's gone. So keep this on. You can even block underneath it while spamming it if you're getting in trouble. It's really, really powerful. You must have one. Bound Aegis. This gives you a small resist buff. which you do get in trials anyway, especially if the healer's using combat prayer, but it's nice to have on you all the time. And also the main purpose for having this on the bar is that it increases your max magicka by 8%, increasing again your damage from your skills and executes and all those types of things. Now all you have to do for this one is activate it once, leave it on. Unless you die, that shouldn't fall off, or unless you press the button by accident. Now you do have to double bar this, because otherwise if you switch bars without this being if you switch bars without it being on both bars, it will just fall off. You have to keep reapplying it, which is a waste. Mage's Wrath, this is our main execute. So if an enemy is below 20%, this will do a rather large amount of damage and do splash damage as well to nearby enemies. However, there is a little trick to this with smaller targets. If you apply this to a target that isn't 20% health, and you get them to 20% health within 4 seconds, it will pop. So you can preempt it on some targets, especially in PvP or Maelstrom or something like that. It could be a target. We'll use this mud crab. Actually, this is perfect because where's the other ones? They're not spawned yet. Anyway, we'll hit this. He's 100% health, and you'll see the buff timer land on him, and you'll see the countdown. So there it is. Now he's not 20% health, so he's not going to die from it. He is. Where's he gone? No, this is a bad example. They die too quickly. Let's find something else. I'm going to have to get a bounty stuff. I'll kill these innocents over here. So I'll put it on this dude here. 20%. He's not 20%, but we'll push him. That's a bad example as well. Push out of 20%. Down you go. Pop. There you go. So, oh, we've got a recipe. Nice. Basically what you do is like I said, you can preempt it. Don't put it on at 100%. That's a bad example, but this is what you can do. You get them down a little bit. They're inside your death over times, and they're dropping. You just sneaky execute, and they'll pop before you know it. Now, the other skills. Apart from that, obviously, when they're low health, you can spam it within reason inside your rotations. The other skill that's on our bar is Thunderous Rage. Now, this is our main ultimate, and we do use this all the time. This is incredibly strong. This has many benefits alongside the sorc passives, including the whole setup purpose as well, which is off balance. It's not a buff that just healers use. I announced the off balance stuff a very long time ago, before Homestead even existed, and people really should understand what it's for. It's for increasing damage, and you actually benefit from this as a class and a setup a lot. This is what you focus on. You need off balance for this to be strong. Now, there are some targets in the game that cannot be knocked off balance. I'll list those briefly. There's the Lich type ones which float in the air. Those can't be knocked off balance. Stone Atronachs, and also Spider Daedra. Apart from that, I think pretty much everything can be knocked off balance, bosses or not. So just bear that in mind. I'll also come to a setup about that as well. But this whole setup is about off balance, and all the lightning damage that we do can boost that. Now, this does an insane amount of damage. This is actually, I don't remember what the original morph of this was called, but at level 50 on the Destro staff, you unlock this ultimate. Morph it to Rage, not Storm. Storm is for PvP primarily because it sticks to you when you run around with it. This one you can place it where you want, like this. So if I want it over there, boom, there it is, and I can stay out of trouble. But if you have the other morph, it follows you around and it only hits stuff that you're next to. So if the target's over there and you've got to be here and you've got the wrong morph, it's useless. So make sure you get the right one. Back bar. I will explain all these passives after I've gone past all the skills. Bound Aegis, again, double bar it like I said, because otherwise it will fall off. That's the only reason for that, and obviously it buffs your max magic. Wall of Elements, morphed into Elemental Blockade. It says Blockade of Storms because it's lightning damage. If it was fire, it'd be something else. But it's this. It goes on the floor. Everything inside of this takes, where is it? X amount of damage for 8 seconds. Now this is very important, and this is along the Destro passives as well. This status effect for concussion is pretty much guaranteed, and then this will contribute towards other versions of concussion or other procs of it which double up and turn into off balance. That's coming, don't panic. But this is a skill that's very important. This is our main bread and butter skill. This has to be on the target all the time, otherwise your damage is going to be crap. Boundless Storm, this is both a resist buff and a damage dealer, I guess, if you're close. But this is a mixture of things. I mean, they're the most two important ones. But first 6 seconds, you're fast, which is nice for getting around. For having it active, you gain Major Resolve and Major Ward, which is these two here. Major and where's it gone? There. Which increases your resist, which pumps us to a decent amount. I'll get to the skill stats. Where are we? Power Surge, ridiculously overpowered. You don't need spell pots because this gives you your major sorcery, and all your crits you do once a second will heal you for that amount of damage, and it's disgusting. That's your survivability. And yes, it works under shields or even if you're nowhere near the target. As long as something's being hit, if it crits, it'll heal you. Liquid Lightning, that's our other floor dot. It's placed like this. Instead of Wall of Elements, which is placed like that, you place it the same as like Volley. Just put it down there. It lasts 10 seconds. And that's also very, very powerful as well. But the whole point of all this lightning damage is to take advantage of the Sorc's major passives. Now, the Sorcerer, we'll get to passives now because these all have to intertwine. I can't just explain each one individually and that's it. They all work together. Now, first of all, let's go to Destro stuff skills. The Elemental Rage, which is the lightning version of it, lasts an extra 2 seconds based in comparison with every other Destro ulti. Plus, very important, it does lightning damage, or shock damage, whatever you want to call that. Okay, that's really, really important. Wall of Elements, the version we have, more lightning damage. Now, here's some important passives to know about. Shock damage, heavy attacks. The splash damage is basically 129% of the damage you just did on them. So your area of effect damage is very, very high if the targets are close together. So that's one. Penetration bonuses, we know about those. And if you don't, just get these passives. You need everything in here anyway. Increases your chance to apply burning, concussion, and chilled status effects by 100% while you have a Destro staff equipped. Now, concussion, I think it's in here. It should be. Where are we? Doesn't explain concussion in here. Okay, that doesn't matter. Basically, what concussion does, you get it from Wall of Elements, and any other lightning damage you do, if you're lucky, is if you stack up 2 concussion bonuses, that creates off balance. Remember that point. It creates off balance. That's very, very important. We want to push that as far as possible. We want to make sure we get as much of that as we can. Now, where is it? The passive, Ancient Knowledge. This one, for having a lightning staff on your bar, for holding one, you have an increased bonus damage to area of effect by 8%, so long as you, while having that staff, you have one Destro skill on your bar. Here's your Destro skill. It's the ultimate. Now, the other alternative you can do to this, if you're ranged and you're never going to get a Beast Trap in, is you can switch Beast Trap out for Destructive Clench. This is very, very strong death over time ability. It adds a stun and it has a very high status bonus. So you can stack this and Wall of Elements together and get a healthy amount of off balance when you wouldn't normally. So you can do that. That would then be your Destro skill. So then you can switch this one to Ice Comet for the extra stats. That is a major skill passive. I'll come to that in a moment. But for now, in actual fact, I prefer it this way. Beast Trap and Destro. So, 2 choices. Beast Trap and Destro, or Destructive Clench and an Ice Comet. Entirely up to you. But I prefer it this way. I didn't mention the ultimate on the back bar. You can have the Destro ulti again, or you can replace it with Negate Magic, which is morphed into Suppression Field. This, by the way, is criminally underrated. Have I got any ulti left? No, I haven't. Basically, it creates a big bubble on the floor, and anything inside of it, as long as it's stunnable, gets stunned for 8 seconds and takes damage over time. It's very, very strong. So in the right situations, that's handy. But I just put it on there for stats the rest of the time. Now, other passives that are very important. Did we do all the Destro ones? This is important. Restore Magicka when you kill an enemy with a Destro staff ability. That is really, really strong. This is our Destro staff ability. Our ultimate is, and so is our heavy and light attacks. That's very, very important. We're still getting to the methods behind the build, but just remember that point as well. Off balance and destruction stuff skills are very, very important. Okay, light armor. This goes without saying. There are many bonuses in these which contribute to sustain, to actual damage, resist, all that kind of stuff. I won't go through these too long, so you can look at these in your own time. But above all, make sure you get every single passive in the light armor skill tree, because you are going to need them, especially this one, which increases your spell penetration, which improves your overall damage. Medium armor, I've got a few passives in there I don't really need, but if you're going 5-1-1, for example, if you have the old setup, you'll have 1 medium, 1 heavy, and 5 light. So you may want to benefit from these that don't need 5 pieces of medium armor to wear. So you'll get extra roll dodge bonuses and all that kind of stuff. But that's not essential. What is essential is to have 1 piece heavy at least, because then you'll increase your resists, you'll increase your health recovery, which is not necessarily that good, but you will restore magicka and stamina when you take damage. And this one is the best one, because for having just 1 piece of heavy, you gain an extra 2% health, which is handy. So above all light armor passives, medium armor passives that don't require 5 pieces if you like, and the same for heavy armor, but this is one you definitely do want. Don't get the 2 that require 5 pieces, just get everything that doesn't. So the top 3. Legend Main is not essential, that's more for PvP and lockpicking and stuff. Vampire, I'm definitely keeping this regardless of what people are saying. Increases your magicka and stamina recovery by 10% just for being a vampire. You have to be stage 2 or higher, and I'm stage 4 all the time. Also, the lower your health, the less damage you receive. Reduces the damage taken by 33% based on your missing health while under 50%. So the lower you are, the less damage you take. That will save you, and it's saved me so many bloody times I can't count it. This one is not really that relevant. We lose health recovery anyway, but if you want it, get it to take off the edge. And this one I use for PvP and stealing stuff. It basically makes you crouch faster, and you can move at full speed while crouched, which is quite nice, but not essential for the build. That's just for fun. Fighters Guild, intimidating presence. Get this straight away because it reduces the cost of your beast trap by 15%. You're going to need this, and it's also handy for quests. This one is very, very important. Max this out as soon as you can, because every time you kill an undead, daedra or werewolf, you will gain 9 ultimate. The more ultimate you can spam, more damage you can do. Mages Guild passives. Now, if you do want Ice Comet on your bar so that you can then use Destructive Clench instead of Beast Trap, then you're going to need this. If not, don't worry too much about it, but you definitely need this, which we've got on our bar already. And you will want a couple of these passives. I don't really use that because none of my abilities have any length of time. I don't use the Ice Comet. You'll see why when I get to the sets. Increases the duration of them. I don't really need that either, but I got it, so it's an old one. But this is very important. Increases your maximum magic and magicka recovery by 2% for each Mages Guild ability slotted. So if you have this on your front bar, that's 2%. If you have Ice Comet, that's another 2%. It does contribute to your skills. But this particular setup is based on a balance of skills and heavy attack and sustain. Undaunted, this is essential. Get these no matter what. All the way to 9. Get this because if you pick up synergies, you get back resources. And get this because the more different types of armor you wear, the more your overall resources, all 3 of them, go up. 2% per different type of armor. So light is one type, medium is another, heavy is another. If you have all 3, you get 6%. If you have 2, you get 4%, and so on. This isn't essential. There's one trial in the game that may require you to do this because you are not going to run out of magicka. So have this available, and that is Sanctum Orphidia. On the last boss, you can be subject to the unfortunate death over time, or countdown, I guess, until your doom, which is the Magicka bomb. And if you get it, you need to dump your magic quick, and this is pretty much the only way I know how to do it. Everything else is too cheap, and you're not going to run out of magic quick enough. So I slot this and just dump my magic straight away to get rid of the bomb. But that's a different story, but just have it for when that situation arises. High elf skills, of course, we're a high elf. We actually gain, I have to go over the sorc passives, but we have increased recovery, which is very nice, 9%. We have increased max magicka, 10%, which is the highest magicka bonus in the game, which is the same as a Breton, actually. And then we also increase our shock, flame, and frost damage by 4%. That shock damage one is very, very essential. The shock damage is what we are mainly, in fact, what we're only doing. We're only doing shock damage. This is where the sorc passives come in. There's 4% there, and we'll go to Storm Calling. Increases your magic recovery by 10%. We need recovery. Increases your physical and shock damage by 5%. We're now up to 9% bonus on our shock damage. So everything we're doing is increased. This is really, really stupid. When you deal shock damage, you have a 6% chance to instantly disintegrate enemies under 15% health, dealing 10k shock damage. That actually goes a lot higher than that. I'll explain why that's so important in a moment. This one, the more sorc abilities you have slotted, the more spell and weapon damage you get. At the moment we have 3 on our bar, so we get 6%. Very simple. Now, the shock damage execute. 15% doesn't sound like a lot, but when you have 1 lightning ability, 2 lightning abilities, an ultimate, which is 3 lightning abilities, and a heavy attack, which is 4 lightning abilities, your dice just got a hell of a lot better. And so, it's very, very, very powerful. I can give an example for that once we get into a dungeon shortly. So, your shock damage is increased. You have 3 executes from your overall passive damage. You just do damage and it will just fire off executes left, right and center if the enemies go low health. The other skills you're going to require passives. Not all of these actually. Restore, no, not that one. Reduces the cost of your ultimate, Power Stone, you need that. And increases your health and stamina recovery by 20% while having a Daedric summoning ability slotted. This is not essential, but it does help because you will be blocking, you will be dodge rolling, all that kind of stuff. You want to keep your stamina up, so get that one. And that means that while you have this ability slotted, which we do all the time, we always get that bonus. So Bound Aegis is contributing there, and so is Hardened Ward actually, the shield. So we always get that bonus. The rest are not 100% essential unless you're using a pet, in which case that's fine, but another one we'll go over depending on the situation. The last one, Dark Magic, because the only one we use here is Suppression Field. We don't really need any of these other ones, but you can. I mean, this is obviously essential. Reduces the maximum cost of your abilities for Magicka and Stamina by 5%, so very, very strong. When you hit an enemy with a Dark Magic ability, we're not using none, don't worry. Increases duration of your Dark Magic abilities. That's quite good because your Negate Bubble lasts longer. And this one, while casting a magic ability, grants Minor Prophecy. Now, this does improve the crit of your group by like 3% or something. Maybe 5, I don't remember. But it's situational. I don't use it because I don't use any dark magic abilities, but I guess if I fire my Negate Bubble, then people get a bonus. But generally, if there's more than one of these sorcs, I try to tell one of them to put on a Crystal Frag. Just fire it once every 20 seconds and everyone benefits. It's just something to switch out for, but these aren't essential. What you really want is the duration increase and obviously the cost reduction. So Unholy Knowledge and Persistence are the main 2 that you're going to need because they passively help you. Now, how do we put this all together? Because this may seem a little confusing to start with. We need to make sure... Oh, my food ran out. We need to make sure that we survive, that we do damage, and that we sustain all at the same time. And I'm going to show you how to do this. Okay, now, first of all, we'll have a quick look at the stats with the buffs on. 43, almost 43 max Magicka. 2.8k spell damage that actually gets increased with our weapon glyph that we've got on. And almost 18 and 16k resists. That looks a little bit squishier than it is, but it's absolutely fine. And also almost 17k health. Now, the health is a little low, but then your shields are massive. So it's not 17k health almost. It's like, without resists, I guess you're talking 30 because of the shield. But shields don't have resist, so just remember that. If you take a really big hit with it, make sure you're blocking, otherwise it'll kill you. Now, the trick is to keep certain dots active all the time. Mainly Liquid Lightning first, because it lasts 10 seconds. Light Attack Wall of Elements, because that lasts 8 seconds, and switch as fast as possible. When you're on this bar, you want to get in 3 heavy attacks, but your heavy attacks must fire while Wall of Elements is down, otherwise you're wasting your time. This particular setup is based on a heavy attack bonuses, and they are also in the champion points as well, which I'll come to in a moment. And the more off balance you get, the more bonuses you get to your actual damage. This here is a rubbish heavy attack, 5.6, and that's with a buff on. Now, if you put Wall of Elements on, come on, crit, 8.4. Now, if you have the correct buffs on with the Beast Trap, go on, 8.9. Now we want to get an off balance proc on it, so we'll just force it. There we go. Come Come on, crit. 14.4. Which is quite high. Now, we can get it higher than that. In fact, we can, because we can put the elemental drain on, which will be used in dungeons and trials all the time. This is not actually elemental drain, this is the susceptibility one, which means as long as you're doing damage it doesn't run out. There's a debuff on the boss. Back to this. Now, if we can force a little bit of off balance, it would be awesome. See, that's 10k crit every half a second just for not really doing much. I'm going to try and get an off balance proc out of this. It's not playing. There we go, 16.8. Now, that was a quick, oh, you saw it off balance again straight away. This particular setup gives a decent amount of status effect, but the trick is to have more than one. You want 2 of these, at least. We actually run trials with 4, and our off balance is pretty much 100% of the time, which means those 16.8k hits are constant, as long as you crit, obviously. Now, that's half a second. 17k almost for half a second. That's 34k DPS without including this, which is 2k-ish almost if you crit with all your buffs on. The extra damage from the liquid lightning, the extra damage from the wall of elements, the extra damage from the ultimate, the extra damage from the beast trap, and then you start getting into stupid numbers. I mean, I missed that one because I took the buff off, but with all the buffs on, you're talking a hell of a lot of damage. And also, this is why the Destro ulti is on. Remember I said that we need one Destro skill on to increase our overall area of effect damage by 8%. This is area of effect. This is area of effect. This is area of effect. And so is the splash damage from the heavy attack. So everything we do is improved by 8% for having that Destro ulti on the bar. Or destructive clench if you would like. Also, I got to a point about concussion earlier. Not only does it double stack and turn into off balance, not only does it offer minor maim. No, it used to. It was minor vulnerability, sorry. It gives minor vulnerability, which improves your damage by 8%. Everybody who's hitting the target gets an increased 8%. So, I have to go back on that one. Messed that one up. But, you get the idea. Now, how do we benefit from this and how do we put this all into place? Champion points, really, really important. Now, common misconception is you need 75 in Firmitage to get off balance. Technically that's true, but actually you just need 75 points in this tree. But because we're Magicka, that's the only one we benefit from. So put 75 points in there. Here is the exploited passive. You get 10% bonus done to enemies off balance. So everyone who has any points in this tree, 75 minimum, will get 10% extra bonus damage. However, heavy attacks get a lot more than that. Heavy attacks actually get about 70%, and I think that was in the patch notes recently. It used to be 45%, now it's 70%. So they nerfed the damage to heavy attacks, but they improved the damage to off-balance targets if you hit them with a heavy attack. Now, I know a lot of people say that it consumes the buff. No, it just lasts the same amount of time. It lasts 3 seconds, and a heavy attack pretty much not far off here. 1, 2, 3. You're going to be at the same. So it's not consuming it, it's just running out. But, where are we? There's where you get your points. So 10% to all of your skills and all of your executes and all of your overall damage, but an increased around 70% for your heavy attacks. So that's very, very important. We have 33 points into Staff Expert. This gives us enough damage from our heavy attack alone. Then we have our rest of our points into Elemental Expert, 56 in there, 38 in Elfborn, and 8 in Spell Erosion. This is just the best setup I've found so far. It's not necessarily the best, but this is what I found so far to be the strongest that I've messed with. And this basically improves your crit damage, improves your overall elemental damage, which is shock damage primarily. Everything we do is shock, including our heavy attacks, and this just adds a little bit of penetration. Green Tree, these have been messed with. 75 in Tenacity gives us our magic back with heavy attacks. 75 into Recovery gives us 14% recovery overall. 30 in tumbling just for the sake of using it for dodge rolls, because you're going to need to occasionally, especially in Maelstrom and some of the new trials as well. And also 30 in Warlord, improving our reducing our cost of break free. Now, we never used these before, but now that we've got freedom to do so because they front loaded the CPs, now we can benefit from break free costs and dodge roll and all that kind of stuff. So we're a little bit more maneuverable and we don't get stuck with no stamina anymore. Okay, quick recovery, 10 points, just to get this passive here so you can help res people and take a lot less damage, and also improves your heals that you do or receive. 65 in Hardy, 65 in Elemental Defender. You can put more in these if you want, but you're really going to run out of points because they just don't get used enough past 65 or 70. I think it's like 30 points for 1%, which is rubbish. So 65 to 70 maximum, you're good there. 50 points in a Thick Skin, that's a massive reduction to dot damage, really, really nice. And also 20 points in the Ironclad, just to give you that little edge off of single target hits, like heavy attacks and that kind of stuff. So that's where I put those. Now, it's very hard to explain on a skeleton because the skeleton's rubbish. The reason he's rubbish because he doesn't always go off balance when he wants to. Now, I can force him to go off balance by applying loads and loads of status effects, one of which is Destructive Clench, which has a high status chance. 2 is Wall of Elements, which has another high status chance. And 3 is Alambrius, because that has a very high status chance, even though the damage is low. So you can force it to happen, but you don't need to. If you're in a group and they're using the skills properly, with you and one other, or even up to 4, we actually use 6 Wall of Elements, we use 4 Sorcs and 2 Templars. You can keep that uptime on off balance all the time. Yeah, everyone else might be getting 10%, you're getting 70 on this. It's insane. As you can see, that was a 5.9 crit. Wall of Elements down, major buff from the Maelstrom, 8.4. And then when it goes off balance, that obviously, as you saw, goes up to like 16, 17. It's stupid. It doubles your damage on a crit. It's insane. Now, this is where the gear comes in. Sorry if this is a little long, but there's so much to bloody explain. I know it's an easy build, but a lot of time has been put in to make sure that everything works properly. Now, Maelstrom weapon on the back, but don't laugh at the trait, it is awful. And yes, I would prefer a charge if I can bloody get one, but it's just not dropping for me. But you want a charge on the back bar, that will increase your status chance by 220%, meaning off balance happens a lot more often. But if you're in a group, don't worry, it doesn't matter what trait you get on the back bar, you're fine. Just make sure that you always fire Wall of Elements with the same bar as your Maelstrom Lightning Staff is on. They don't panic if you don't have one. You can do Maelstrom with this build. You just need to practice it. That sounds easier than it is, but believe me, it's once you've got it, you've got it. You'll be absolutely fine with the setup. And I kind of chill out in Maelstrom with this one, whereas I stress with others. Now, the other set is obvious. You saw this in the recent update video. Yes, I'm using Nature's Touch. Of course I am. It was the alternate set in the last build video. Now this is more of a primary. Now, I'm using 5 pieces of this, and this gives you crit, max magic, spell damage, and increases your spell damage of all your shock abilities. Hold tight a minute. This here, shock, 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 and this lightning shit coming out here, this is shock damage. It applies to your light and heavy attacks, and your executes, and your ultimate and everything like that. I'm not using any fire because I don't need to. Everything is shock damage, and all of my shock damage can passively execute at low health, as I've already said, including splash damage from the lightning stuff. So everything is benefited from this set. Then we have one heavy. Reason we have heavy is for the extra health on the passives. One heavy Molag Kenna to increase our spell damage. Our heavy attacks are heavily influenced by spell damage, and that is what makes them get higher and higher and higher. So we want that little boost. Now, you should have divines on everything if you can get it. Unfortunately, I haven't infused on the belt, but that one's work in progress. The other set is very, very similar to this. It has crit, magic, and spell damage, but it's the Spider Cultist, and this increases your Destro skills by 404 spell damage. Like the Nature's Touch does lightning, this does Destro. Now, that can't obviously be very beneficial, can it? Because, what have we got here? 1 skill here, and 1 skill here. So, what good is that? For one, if you change this to Destructive Clench, yes, your damage will go down a little bit, but your status will be up, and then it's quite nice from range, but that will also contribute. But if we're not using that, we just have 2 skills, 1 ulti, 1 wall of elements. Wrong. This also stacks with it. You just added 440 spell damage to your light and heavy attacks. So everything you're wearing, where's the bloody, there it is. The Spider Cultist increases your light and heavy attacks and your wall of elements and your ulti. The Netcher's Touch improves your light and heavy attacks and everything you're using. So the 2 together stack. Then the extra spell damage contributes to both evenly, and you're done. The only thing you have to do, obviously, is make sure you get the Maelstrom Lightning Staff to improve it even more. You can do it without, but your damage is going to skyrocket if you get this. Just make sure, again, like I said, the bar that the weapon is on must be the same bar that you cast this skill with. It's very important. Now, here's the easy part. This set is farmed from Dark Shade, 1 or 2, Vet or Normal. This one, Spider Cultist, is farmed from Fungal Grotto, 1 or 2, Vet or Normal. Now if you go into Veteran, you can get the purple jewelry. As you can see, I've mixed the jewelry. That's Netcher's Touch, that's Spider Cultist, it doesn't matter. Put them where you want. So you don't have to get all 3 of the same. You can mix them. So that's easy part number 1. Easy part number 2 is the fact that it's a tier 2 dungeon, so it's probably quite achievable for most groups, and if not, I'm sure you can get some help with it. Failing that, if you're experienced enough, you can solo it. The last one is the icing on the cake. Remember the Ether Staff in the last video was very, very difficult to get. This sharpened lightning staff of the set that you need drops from the last boss in Fungal Grotto 2, and as long as she drops this, which is her own personal named weapon, it is always in a guaranteed sharpened trait. So no more farming Ether for 10 months and never even seeing it, can't get a trial group, whatever. Go in there, spam this a couple times. Some people get it first time, some second. It drops a lot. It's her personal weapon. So you get this, gold it out, stick a weapon glyph on it, you're done. You don't have to go farming Netcher's Touch Staff forever, because believe me, I tried it and the bloody thing won't drop. So I'm going to go into a dungeon very, very quickly just to show you how this works in the dungeon. We'll put it to vet, obviously, because you want to see how this works in the new patch. Let's go. Let's pick. We'll say Banished Cells, actually, because I was going to go there a minute ago. Just because I like Banished Cells. And we're going 1. Okie dokie. So, just to confirm, Veteran difficulty. Now what we'll do is, these are quite small, they've only got like 58k health, usual stuff, dot, heavy attack, dead. And my Magicka didn't struggle. Now they're small, obviously, but that's all you have to do. It's as simple as that. Now obviously your sustain is based off of your heavy attacks. The more heavy attacks you do, the more Magicka you get back. You do 3 heavy attacks per rotation. So keep your buff up. Liquid Lightning, Light Attack, Boundless Storms, Light Attack, Wall of Elements, and swap. Then you do 3 heavy attacks, Beast Trap, swap back again. Liquid Lightning, Light Attack, Power Surge, Light Attack, Wall of Elements, switch, 3 heavies, Beast Trap, start again. And then you just go round in a rotation. You'll notice that my Boundless Storms is about to run out just as I recast it. Everything goes together. Now your 3rd heavy attack, this stuff here will just fall off, but you should have enough time to get it in there. Just takes a bit of practice. That little light attack in there, that sneaky one, is quite hard to do, but that's your back bar. 3 heavies, Beast Trap, swap. 1 again. Now what you do, these 2 buffs on the back bar, every 1 rotation, Liquid Lightning, Light, Boundless, swap. The next time, Liquid Lightning, Light, Power Surge, swap. Next time you come round, obviously you'll be doing 3 heavy attacks. You can wait for Boundless to be reapplied again, but if you do, they'll probably fall around the same sort of time, and then you'll end up having to put both buffs on at the same time, and you'll lose damage because you just waste too much time on the back bar. So 1 rotation, put this on, do a whole rotation, next rotation, put this on, come back, put this, and you just alternate them. Put them both on at the beginning of the fight and just alternate them every rotation. I'll try and keep this as simple as possible. I do apologise if this is in any way confusing. There's a lot of thought gone into this, so it takes a bit to try and explain it all, but this is pretty much it. and they're off balance as hell. Keep your shield up. You have to make sure that you finish your heavy attacks. And obviously as they're low health you can throw an execute pop. Very, very simple. And what you can do, if you don't finish your heavy attack, you will not get the magic back. So you have to make sure you do that. If you don't kill them with a Destro skill, you won't get the magic back. So take advantage of that as much as possible. When you do finish a heavy attack, there's a large pop of damage at the end, plus it can execute. And also, if you're taking damage and you think you're going to need a shield, try not to stop yourself finishing the heavy attack just to put it on, if you can help it. Remember, this skill here, Power Surge, will heal you if you do crit damage. So you can heal while you're doing your damage. What you can do is you can hold your heavy attack and press shield while you're holding it, and the shield will apply itself once the heavy attack is over. So you can play like that. You can do heavy shield, heavy shield, heavy shield if you want. Negate bubble, incidentally, why I said it was so powerful is because it does this. Sit down. So this one here, I'll do a heavy attack. I'll press shield now. Already pressed it. Then it applies. I'll press it again. Oh, he's dead. Press it again. It applies when I've finished the heavy attack. Yeah, these should have Wall of Elements down. I forget to mention that. Wall of Elements must be under the target, otherwise you won't get all that bonus damage, which is really, really nice. Let's hug these up together, see if we can get some splash damage on them. Come here. Oh, forget it. Try on these guys. That was a bit sloppy. Also, as you see, I don't need to use any potions apart from stamina because I don't run out of anything. Heavy, see the splash damage on these? No, the splash damage doesn't crit, but if your middle crit, the one on the main target, is high, then the other targets around it will receive a shit ton of damage. Just keep your buffs on. I'm going to shield now, it's going to pop. Shield again, it'll pop when I've finished. Now, of course, I'm not doing full rotations because it's just loads and loads of ads and we're running in, smacking stuff, but when it comes to the boss I will do. And also I'm gonna put a little trick in here. Come on. Everything dead. Now most of those took decent damage, but a lot of them would have received what's called an execute proc, where they go 15% health and all that lightning damage. One of those skills procced an execute and killed them. This room, a little tricky because you need to do a lot of damage to the boss, but to stay alive. So I'll bring them in, splash damage them out. I'm not even paying attention to them. Except him, he's going to throw something at me. He missed. Come on, in you come. And we'll get some rotations now. Three of them. Light, boundless, light. There we go. I should be using the ultimate there. Shield again, see he's off balance, it takes a serious amount of damage when he goes off balance. So long as it crits properly. There he goes, 15k, that's quite nice. And that also spreads, like the 129% bonus to splash damage hits really, really hard. Like I can't tell you the highest numbers that they hit at the moment because obviously the patch is quite new and things have changed. But in general, they were hitting before for like 45 to 50 depending on how hard you hit. While testing on Morrowind so far, I've hit reasonably sort of high numbers, sort of mid-20s on the main attack, making the splash damage really, really high. It's every half a second. And I slipped on my rotation a little bit there, but whatever. Okay, so hopefully that wasn't too boring. There is so much to cover that I probably rambled a little bit in there, but the main part of this is you need as much lightning damage as possible, you need as much heavy attacks and buffs up times as possible, and you need to obviously take advantage of as much off balance as possible. Now, in a dungeon situation where you're in more than one person or in a group or whatever, your off balance is going to be ridiculous, especially with all the other buffs going on. Your damage is going to be higher, all that kind of stuff. But solo, you get a decent amount of off balance, and your damage is actually very, very high alongside your survivability and sustain. So you can do pretty much everything. The only thing you can't do is certain dungeons have mechanics where maybe 2 people have to be in the room to open a door. Unfortunately, this can't split into 2 people, but you can do the rest of it. So everything else in the game, within reason, you can pretty much solo with practice. And of course, you can contribute to trials and dungeons with a ridiculous amount of income and damage once those buffs are applied. Now, if you want to force off balance, like I said, if you want to go that extra mile while you're solo, you don't have to necessarily use this setup. You can use the previous setup, which was 4 ether. I'll explain the new version of it. 4 ether, 1 Kenner, 5 Twiceborn, and 1 Alambrius. Now that's the actual setup itself, but you take off the Kenner and replace it with another Alambrius, so you actually have 2. Your actual peak damage will be less, but your overall off balance procs will be higher, so you can clear trash a lot quicker. But generally, this is the setup to use. Like I said already, don't use just one if you can help it. If you've got a friend that's using the same build, all the better. You can duo just about everything. It's insane. Especially once you're both using this all the time, because your Wall of Elements will put concussion on, and their Wall of Elements will turn it into off balance. It's as simple as that. Yes, it's chance based, but it's very, very high. And obviously, like I said with a weapon, if you can get a charge weapon on the back from Maelstrom, you are set. So again, apologies for the rambling. I have some shout outs to do actually. It looks like inflatable, but it's spelt inflatable. So inflatable fish on PC, thank you very much. I've joined PC recently and I've been leveling for a couple of days, I think. So I'm like 110 CP with this setup. Not actually the gear, just the same setup. And so far so good. And this guy was kind enough to make me a Juliana set at 80 CP so I could just boost a little bit. Also, Klaus Winchester, thank you very much for your XP pots on PS4. And Chimas, again, thank you very much also to you for your 100k in the mail. Much appreciated. Now, this is obviously going to be on the website. All the details for the build will be on there, including alternate setups, how to use it, all that kind of stuff. Or at least I'll try to make it as clear as possible. I want to thank everybody for subscribing so far. If you're not subscribed, please do hit that subscribe button. It is free. However, if you want to support the channel, there is a Patreon page. There's a little donation button at the bottom there, which has been put on the streams recently. And also check out the website xynodegaming.com. I am on Facebook also under Xynode Gaming. There's a few updates on there every day or every couple of days or so. So just keep your eyes peeled for new builds coming there. Also, obviously, because Morrowind is now out, all of my builds will be being updated to adapt to the current changes. So, again, thank you very much all for watching, and bye-bye.